$175 to do some kind of user study at Netflix. I show up in the lobby and then they go, "Actually, we got the data we needed from the studies earlier today. You're free to go." Still got paid. When I was a teen, my mom volunteered me to participate in some kind of neuroscience study. As we showed up and prepared to enter the MRI room, I smiled, and the assistant noticed my braces. Don't want my teeth ripped out, no thank you. But we still got paid anyway. Magnetic braces are safe in MRIs. I misremembered the reason why. Braces could possibly interfere with the quality of data collected, so they turned us away. I signed up for a medical study. They did a physical and had me do an at-home sleep study to check eligibility. They paid me $150 for doing this part. They called after and asked me if I knew I had sleep apnea. I had no clue. I wasn't eligible for the rest of the study because of it. So I got paid $150 to get diagnosed with sleep apnea. Obligatory edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. I'm cracking up that my highest rated comment is this random event in my life. I got paid around $1,000 to do a research study where I had to stay awake and be in the same position for 48 hours. I was given tests that were basically testing my cognitive function and fed the same food at regular intervals. It wasn't too bad, but I had to pee in one of those things that name is escaping me. So that was awkward. I once did a psych study where I was told to talk to a guy about a few controversial topics like abortion, the military, etc. Afterward, they said, "As an unrelated thing, here is a box with a small cup. We are doing a different study where a guy will have to eat a random amount of hot sauce, so he'll just have to eat whatever you put in there." So my immediate reaction was to fill the thing with as much sauce as it would handle. Afterwards, they informed me that the actual purpose of the study was to see how willing people were to inflict pain on others, like the hot sauce. If they had just had a heated debate with someone, secretly another researcher. Also, I was the control group, I guess because the person I talked to was agreeable about everything. Long story short, I am scientifically proven to be a jerk. Got paid $40,000 to not show up at work. It was the financial crisis, and there was a hiring freeze right before I was due to start work. The company I was to work for couldn't honor the employment contract we signed, but it was all very sudden, and my would-be bosses felt bad enough about the situation that they offered me half a year's salary as a gesture of goodwill. I tutored for the 21-year-old daughter of a wealthy family and charged around $65 an hour. I warned in advance that I still charged for cancellations if there was less than 24 hours notice, but she would regularly arrange 6-hour sessions or longer, then cancel on the day. I told them and let them off the charge the first few times, but nothing changed, so I thought, for 6 months or so, I was probably making an extra $400 on average per week just for cancellations. I was recently paid $25 per hour to babysit a 17-year-old. Not tutor or anything. I just had to make sure she was going to her virtual class when her parents weren't there. I didn't last long because of how bored I was. Oh, and I'm only 20. When I was like 20, I got hired to be an assistant for some event in Hollywood. I carried 1 box of liquor into the place, and they gave me a walkie-talkie and said they'd let me know when they needed me for anything else. I waited a while with no calls and found that next door they were holding a yoga class for AA members. I poked my head in the door, and they invited me to join them, so I did. After the yoga, I went to return the walkie-talkie, and the guy says, we didn't use you at all, did we? Got $60. I got hired for a Taylor Swift concert to be a brand ambassador for CoverGirl. She was their spokesperson, so I stood around for a few hours, putting makeup and drawing the number 13 on 8-year-olds, and I got to hear her concert. I got to keep all the leftover makeup too. Got paid $150. I think it's time for Vaecia's commentary. A lot of the stories so far seem to be about some fortunate people who still got paid even when all they did was the barest minimum. There's nothing to complain about here. Just accept the money and go. In contrast, there are other jobs that squeeze you dry and you get so much less. Well, on to the rest of the stories. I was paid $50 to assemble some brand new gym equipment for a friend because her husband had been dragging his feet for months. I opened up the box, pulled it out, and made the easiest $50 of my life because it was pre-assembled. I just took 10 seconds to unfold it and it was done. She was furious with her husband and still paid me to spite him. Edit. Dang, this blew up. All right, time to answer the question on everyone's mind. Why didn't she do it herself? She was in her 50s and had a bad back. It was one of those inverted back stretcher things to help relieve pain. The husband was 100% the bad guy in this case. My neighbor, wife, uses me to goad her husband into doing things around the house. She asks me to come over to do something and then tells her husband when I will be there, and he always starts the project before my start date. Never fails. He doesn't want another man mowing his lawn. It's a joke now. I was paid to be a kind of server for a fancy outdoor dinner party. They wanted me to go around with a plate of drinks and food and offer it to people. When I got there, they tell me the person they hired to cook on the grill never showed, so they wanted me to make that my priority. But I told them I didn't know how to grill anything. I was 17. The woman told me to look helpless and some man would come do it. Every man thinks he's the grill master and wants to show off. So I did, and it worked. I basically got paid to stand next to this guy and thank him every so often and get him drinks. I got paid over $100 for just a few hours. It was pretty awesome. Hang a TV. Then make sure that TV worked the following day and then take the TV down the day after. I made $1,000. I used to work for a PR agency. Every month, one of our clients wanted a handful of photos resized for their website. Nothing fancy, just setting the width to 500 pics on Windows Photo Manager. It was maybe 10 minutes of work every month, but the contract said the minimum amount of time we would charge them was for one day. And this was for the full team too, not just me. It must have cost them several £100 every month. I showed the client how to do it several times and explained that they could save a lot of money doing it themselves. They didn't seem to mind. In the end, I made sure I got it in writing that I'd informed them of their options and let them get on with it. I was flown to Paris to do a compliance audit. The systems weren't set up for the audit. I couldn't get access, so I spent the week being taken to restaurants and shopping. On one of the days, and at the last minute, the company decided to send me into London for a meeting, literally just to meet people. I missed the Eurostar because I forgot my passport, totally blank that I was entering another country. They had to rebook the Eurostar. Nothing was achieved out of this trip. No audit was completed. Nothing came of the meeting. It cost the company over $25,000 for me to do nothing for a week. corporate money is ridiculous money. Earned 700 euros monthly for an internship which consisted of me sitting around all day waiting for work which wouldn't come because the company effed up the internship offer and accidentally hired someone they didn't need at all. So basically, I was being paid to take the train in the morning and then back in the evening. I'm a therapist, and I often respond to the sights of things like bank robberies or accidents. When you see on the news that crisis counselors are on site, that's me. Sometimes it can be intense psychological first aid, but it's often sitting around waiting for someone who wants to come talk. Sometimes I'm just there so the PR people can say that services are available. This is especially true with industrial accidents and layoffs. I get paid significantly more for these types of assignments, sometimes as much as $70 per hour, and the clock starts when I leave my home to travel to the site. I've had multiple days spent riding my motorcycle to the site, reading a book for 8 hours, and riding home and never speaking to a single person. $500 in my pocket for the day. 25 years ago, and in Indiana, the law was that in order to operate nail salon, someone there must hold a full cosmetology license, not just a nail technician license. A nail salon opened next to the hair salon I worked at, and they all held nail technician licenses, and the one who held a cosmetology license would be delayed in Korea for a week for whatever reason. At 18 years old, I was paid $25 an hour to merely sit in the nail salon as the holder of the license. I answered no phones, tended to no clients, did nothing but paint my own nails repeatedly, and watch TV for an entire week. What a sweet, sweet gig.